The MMA fortune teller.
The teller, the teller, the teller, the teller, the teller, the teller.
What is up, you guys? On today's episode, we're going to be starting a new in-depth series where we take a deep look into every division inside the UFC. I'm talking every division, the women's strawweight division, the men's heavyweight division. We're going to be going through every division, and each of these episodes will unravel to you guys throughout the weeks. We're going to be starting the series off with the UFC lightweight division. You guys know this is my favorite division in the fight game. There's a couple of reasons for that. As I talk about, the lightweight division, there's more men that walk around naturally around that size than any other size. So it's even more impressive, in my opinion, when you're the king of the lightweight division, because there's more men trying to reach that pinnacle, that spot there. In the UFC heavyweight division, for example, if you do choose to be a fighter and you're a decent athlete, it's a lot easier to gain access to the UFC and to try to reach the top of the fight game there. Whereas when it comes to the lightweight division, there's thousands and thousands of guys trying to reach this spot here. So it is impressive. And on this series, let me just give you guys a breakdown of what we're going to be doing. We're going to run through at least the top 20 fighters in the UFC right now. We're going to be going through the rankings. I'm going to give you guys some of my thoughts on the rankings. We're going to be talking about some of the top matchups in this division, what's to come in the near future and how those fights may adjust these rankings. And we're going to even go down. Maybe we'll even take a look into the top 30, those top 20 to 30 spots, and guys that you need to put a little asterisk next to them, pencil their name down, guys that we got to keep on the radar moving forward, guys that have a world of potential that we will see run to the top of the division here in the next year or so. So we'll be doing all that. I want to talk about who's the best striker, who's the best wrestler, who's the best BJJ fighter, who's the best overall grappler. We're going to be talking about all these types of things. And then I want you guys to comment below. Let's all put our thoughts out here and, let's see what we all feel or how we all feel about this division. And we'll keep breaking these down. We'll go through every division. And there'll be no exact order. It's not like we're going to go lightweight to welterweight to middleweight. I'm going to jump around. If you guys prefer me to hit a certain weight class sooner than later, if you guys comment below, if I see an overwhelming amount of comments for a certain division, we'll hit up that division next. And that's basically what this show is going to be about. So I hope you guys will enjoy this. And, let's get right into it. So kicking things off, we're going to start with no other than the UFC lightweight champion, Charles "Do Bronx" Oliveira. You guys will be hearing, a good amount about him in the show because there's a lot to talk about him in regards to his submission skills and everything that he brings to the table. But I do have him ranked right now as the number one lightweight fighter in the world. And, that wasn't necessarily an easy decision to make because I do have Dustin Poirier right there, who we will be talking about in a second. Yeah, but Charles Oliveira, he has to be number one in my opinion. His submission game is just so nasty. I remember watching him, fight Efrain Escudero. This was in his second UFC fight. This was way back in the day. I was going to college, man. I was in my little college apartment. I remember watching this fight. And really, when I was watching this fight, I was really focusing in on Escudero. If you guys remember him, tough wrestler, guy that was on The Ultimate Fighter, a guy that had a lot of hype. And he was really the fighter that people were watching in this fight. And then all of a sudden, we see Charles Oliveira. Everybody starts talking about his jiu-jitsu skills, and we really start to see them. I believe before this fight, he even had another submission victory in his debut. Might have pulled off an armbar. But, Charles Oliveira, he has to be number one in my opinion right now. There were some question marks about his heart and his durability in some of these fights. We've seen him kind of broken here and there throughout his career. This was the Paul Felder fight where he was finished. But let's not forget, this guy grew up inside the octagon. He's literally been fighting in the octagon since he was a young kid. And, he's a changed fighter. He's developed and he's grown throughout the years. And I think right now he's definitely at his peak as far as his talent goes. And he's a changed fighter. We saw him just recently take out Michael Chandler to win the belt. I do not, take that lightly. Michael Chandler is an amazing fighter. And the fact that he went out there and now took him out there after facing adversity in the first round, I have him as the number one fighter in the division. Dustin Poirier is a second, close there. He gave him a run for his money. He was close to being that number one for me. But I think right now, if Charles Oliveira fights Dustin Poirier, with that grappling, I just tend to think that he might be able to take out Dustin Poirier. We've seen Dustin, be submitted before. Obviously, that in that Khabib fight, we saw him get finished there. But now we'll go over to the number 2 ranked fighter in Dustin Poirier. Like I said, a very, very close number 2. Dustin Poirier is so well-rounded. He's definitely got to be the number 2 fighter in the division. He has a big fight with Conor coming up, of course. We'll be talking a little bit more about that here throughout the show. But, DP, a guy that I've been watching from way back in the day, too, since, his WEC days. He's just so well-rounded right now. I think him and Charles Oliveira would be an amazing fight. I hope we do get to see that in the near future. If Dustin can keep the fight standing for the most part, I could see Dustin possibly taking that fight by breaking Charles on the feet later in the fight. Dustin has excellent submission skills as well, good wrestling. He's extremely well-rounded, about as well-rounded as it gets. So, I definitely got DP at number 2. And like I said, that Conor McGregor fight's coming up. That's the trilogy. Now, that fight, that's I talked about, we're going to talk about some fights that are upcoming. This is one of the only fights that we have penciled in the lightweight division that has major implications on the division as far as the ranking goes. If Conor wins this fight, he's going to make a substantial jump up to the top of the division. If Dustin wins this, of course, he's still going to be right there. He's the number 1 contender. Some feel he's the rightful lightweight champion after Khabib retired. So yes, I do got DP ranked at number 2, excuse me. And I agree with these rankings here. Now, moving to the number 3 spot, we got Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje just recently fought for the belt, of course, against Khabib. He lost that fight. Before that, he was looking amazing. Dismantled Tony Ferguson. Got to give him credit there. His striking has really, really looked good. But let's not forget, he did get beat by Dustin Poirier. He even lost to Eddie Alvarez, not too long ago. I do believe Gaethje has evolved since then, but no way I'm putting Gaethje above DP. And quite honestly, I would love to see a fight between Chandler and Gaethje. I think you could. Now, again, I'm not going to say who should be ranked higher based on just on opinion of what you think will happen. I think that it's rightfully so that he's ranked number 3. But I do think him matched up against Michael Chandler could cause him some issues. Michael Chandler, still a stud. We see him ranked here at number 5. And these are the rankings here at Tapology. I believe this might be the UFC rankings. I know I have the UFC rankings below. As of when this was recorded, May 28th. But maybe one guy's off here or there. But I do believe those are the UFC rankings below, so you can take a look at them regardless. So Gaethje at number 3, I guess you can't really argue that based on the fact of what he's done as of recently. But I don't know. Chandler, I think he might be able to take him out. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And just there's so many solid matchups to be made here with Gaethje. I would love to see Gaethje fight a couple different guys here in the division. So, but losing to Khabib, everybody loses to Khabib, and then the victory against Tony Ferguson maybe doesn't look as impressive based on the fact that Tony's been having a tough time getting a victory. But we didn't really see anybody work Tony Ferguson like Gaethje did on the feet, and maybe there's a good argument that the reason why Ferguson's not looking the same is from what Gaethje did to him. So that's something to take into consideration there as well. Now, the next fighter I want to talk about, Beneil Dariush, ranked number 4 right now. Of course, Beneil just had a very impressive victory over Tony Ferguson. The grappling is there. The striking is underrated from Dariush. Dariush can cause guys major issues on the feet. I really believe that. He's unorthodox in there. He's kind of a little bit wild with his striking. He'll throw some spinning attacks and whatnot. Really been putting it together. I love the fact that he's training out of King's MMA. They're absolutely no joke over there. Rafael Cordero, one of the better striking coaches and overall MMA coaches in the game. Beneil ranked number 4 right now. I think that there's some guys that can give Beneil Dariush some trouble that are ranked behind him. I would love to see him matched up with Islam Makhachev or Michael Chandler as well. And I do think that Chandler or Makhachev could easily get the better of Dariush there. So those are fights, we'll see. Again, we'll see how this division plays out. But those are fights that we could all be seeing here relatively soon. None of these guys have matchups. Now, Islam Makhachev does have an opponent. He's one of the few guys that is matched up with somebody. He will be fighting Thiago Moises. He's actually taken a jump back. Nobody wants to fight him in the top 5. And that's a fight that I think he should handle. even though Thiago Moises is a good fighter. We'll talk a little bit about him coming up as we move down this ranking system. But Islam Makhachev is a guy, well, let me not get ahead of myself here. We still got Chandler to talk about. But Islam Makhachev is a guy I could see giving Dariush problems, and I think Chandler as well. So I think over time, maybe we'll see Dariush take some steps back. And that's no shade on Dariush. I still think that Dariush is very, very talented. You take a look at Dariush's last fight, though, against Diego Ferreira. It was somewhat close. Ferreira just got broke after that in his more recent fight against Gregor Gillespie. So, Dariush, extremely technical. I don't think he's the most physically imposing fighter. You take a look at guys like Makhachev and Chandler. These guys are more ripped, man. They're more physically strong, in my opinion. They also have the technique to go with that. A little bit more explosive and a little bit more technical, I believe, with their striking too. A little bit more tight, with the boxing and whatnot. But Dariush, no shade on Dariush. Very, very solid fighter. But I think that we will see things be ironed out in a different way over the next year or so. So we'll keep an eye on Dariush. But, props to Dariush for reaching as high as the number 4th, ranking in the division, which is very impressive. So we hit the number 5 spot in the division, Iron Michael Chandler. Obviously, he is coming off a loss, but it was for the belt against Charles Oliveira, and he had his moments in the first round. He looked very good. We could easily be sitting here talking about Michael Chandler as the lightweight champion of the world. He came into the UFC, put everybody on notice by knocking out Dan Hooker, looked amazing. And again, even though he lost to Charles Oliveira, I think that fight still kept his stock just as high as it was, or if not, rose his stock. Looked amazing in the first round. He got caught. You guys know I had a major play on Charles Oliveira. We talked about that plenty previous to this video, so I won't talk too much about that. But, that fight, I did have it close in a way, but I did edge Charles Oliveira there. I said that there's times Michael Chandler freezes up on the feet. We saw Patricio Pitbull take him out on the feet. And there's just been some moments in time where Chandler's kind of dropped the ball against Will Brooks over in Bellator. But Chandler is still an amazing specimen of a man. He's a freak athlete. He's very compact. He's explosive. I think he's going to give guys continuous problems in the division. And I expect him to be in the top 5 for some time to come. Whoever is matched up with him next, good luck to him. And there's a lot of people there's a lot of guys we could see Chandler matched up against. I would love to see Chandler potentially matched up with Conor, but obviously Conor has a fight coming up, so depending on how quickly Chandler wants to get in there, maybe we see Chandler matched up with Dariush or Gaethje. These are all potential fights that we could see here. I don't think that Chandler is necessarily deserving of an immediate rematch. So right now, the potential fights I see for Chandler would be either Gaethje or Dariush. Those are the fights I'm seeing right now. He's already knocked out Dan Hooker at number 7. Nobody wants to see him versus Tony Ferguson. I think that would play out in a bad way for Ferguson there. Islam Makhachev has a fight already. So, yeah, it's got to be Gaethje or Dariush, in my opinion. Dustin's already booked. I would love to see that Conor fight down the line, but things got to play out. We'll see how things go with that. Michael Chandler is a guy that says he will hold the belt one day. He guarantees he will eventually hold that belt. This is a guy that is strictly business, and you got to hold what he says pretty highly. And excited to see him back in there relatively soon. I cannot argue with the spot that he's at. I think that is respectable at the number 5 spot. Now at number 6, we got Islam Makhachev. This guy is, if you want to call him one of the dark horses of the division, nobody wants to fight him. This is, he's a protege of Khabib. Very, very decorated and strong grappling. This guy continuously goes inside the octagon and just completely blankets guys and demolishes them there. He only had, the one mishap back in the day, right? He's 19-1. He had one mishap, and that was back in 2015 against Adriano Martins, where he got caught with a punch there, knocked out in the first round. Since then, he's been demolishing all these guys. I would say his most impressive victory on his resume is Arman Sarukian, who we will talk about in a little bit. Other than that, though, some decent names. Gleason Tebow, Davi Ramos, Drew Dober, who doesn't have the best grappling, so kind of exploited him there. So, Islam still does have to prove some things, but his grappling is is very impressive. Dan Hooker. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, and this was where Islam Makhachev absolutely just dismantled Dober on the ground, man. Look at this guy. Can you imagine having a guy like Islam Makhachev hanging on the side of your back over here? This guy is he's a freak fighter, man. This guy is extremely talented, and he's the guy that's supposed to take over now. As far as Khabib retiring, he's supposed to take all that momentum and handle the throne for the Dagestani boys. So, we'll see how that all plays out. And real quick, as far as Islam Makhachev, ranked at number 6, I think that's respectable because he hasn't beat a lot of those big names. But I think Islam Makhachev takes out Beneil Dariush, which was a fight that was supposed to happen. They were booked, right? I think that fight fell apart. Islam, if it came down to it, I'm taking Islam probably over Justin Gaethje. And I'll say that as far as if you want to just go off who I think is where he should be placed right now, I'm throwing Islam above Beneil Dariush. I'm throwing him over even Justin Gaethje. Of course, this isn't proven yet, so it wouldn't be right. But I'm just saying, as far as what I see on tape and what I see happening in the future, right? I would put Makhachev above those guys. He's got to prove it to me. I think I might take him over Michael Chandler as well, though. Kind of want to see that play out first. It's a close fight. I think I'd take Islam there. A little bit of the naturally bigger guy. A little bit more cerebral in the octagon, sticks to the game plan. I think Islam can give Chandler some problems. I might want to bump Islam all the way up to like the number 4 or 3 spot there. So Islam is a guy you got to keep an eye on. All right, we're sliding through these rankings here. We'll talk Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker, of course, coming off that knockout loss to Michael Chandler. Before that, he also, had an L against, before that he lost to Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier, obviously at the top of the division. Before that, Hooker was doing his thing, 3 fights in a row. Did get finished by Edson Barbosa back in 2018. But notable wins on his resume like Gilbert Burns, Ali Quinta, Paul Felder. Not gonna go too much more than that. Jim Miller, a little bit past his heyday. Mark Diakese never really turned out to be as good as we thought that he would turn out to be back in the day. He was one of the top prospects in the game. I think that Dan Hooker is a guy I could see eventually sliding down these rankings over time. I think that Hooker will start to drop to a lot of these guys that are going to be biting at his ankles, guys that we're going to be talking about here in a second. Tony Ferguson ranked at number 8. Tony Ferguson needs to get matched up with a lesser of an opponent. Let him put on an entertaining fight for the fans. Let him get back in the W column. Right now, I don't think he's taken out a lot of these guys. Somebody I would want to see Tony Ferguson matched up with, possibly. I wouldn't mind seeing Tony Ferguson fight maybe a Dan Hooker. It's not a bad fight there. Maybe a Rafael Dos Anjos versus Tony Ferguson. Even a Gregor Gillespie fight, which I don't know. Gregor Gillespie would be trying to blanket him with the wrestling. Might not be the most entertaining fight, but Tony would be threatening with submissions. But yeah, you know what? Scratch that. I don't want to see that fight. I think Gregor blankets him. Tony is definitely had problems with the grappling, so let's not even see that fight. I think the fight I would actually want to see, Diego Ferreira versus Tony Ferguson. I think that's the fight to be made there. Ferreira coming off 2 losses, has been fading in the later rounds as of recently, but still a very, very polished fighter in a lot of ways. I would love to see El Cucuy versus Diego Ferreira, who is ranked at number 12 there. Of course, Gillespie ranked at 11 right now. Just took out Ferreira, like I said, broke him there. But you guys know I did not just gloss over the notorious Conor McGregor. We got to talk about Conor McGregor here for a second. Conor McGregor, he has a big fight coming up with DP. Let's not forget, they're 1-1. This is the rubber match. If Conor McGregor goes out there and starches Poirier, which is not an exaggerated possibility at all, we've seen him knock him out already. Even in that previous fight, even though he got finished in the early rounds, he was phasing Poirier a little bit. If you guys actually heard the interview with Poirier said, some of those punches were pretty serious. They wobbled him a little bit. He was okay, but he felt them. I don't think it's exaggerated in the least bit to say that Conor McGregor goes out there and gets a knockout. Now, I'm going to say I'm definitely leaning Dustin Poirier to win the rematch, which is tough for me. You guys know I'm a giant Conor McGregor fan, but you guys know I keep it real with you guys over here when it comes to betting, making money. Don't forget, I was the guy that flew out to Vegas and had a substantial bet on Khabib to defeat Conor McGregor. For those of you guys that have been keeping up with me from the very beginning, you guys know this. And, that was a big ticket there. So, Conor, I hope he goes out there. I hope he could pull that victory off. But I cannot say that I could take him over DP at these points in their careers. Conor McGregor has taken a little bit of a step back. He's been very distracted with many things. And DP is just, he's just so... He's so well-rounded, and like I said, I can almost argue for DP being the best lightweight in the world right now over Charles Oliveira. It's very close. So Conor McGregor has a big plate in front of him. Let's see if he can clean that plate off. Gregor Gillespie. Real quick, I want to brush up on Gregor real quick again, which we will be talking about him in a second. Give you guys a little hint there when we start breaking down the top attributes of the division. But Gregor, a guy that's wrestling is really top notch in the division there. So Diego Ferreira we talked about. Drew Dober is going to be having a fight with Brad Riddell. That's an excellent fight, striker versus striker matchup there. We know Drew Dober's strong suit is his striking, some of the best Muay Thai in the game. I don't think that Drew Dober's grappling will ever catch up to the point of these guys in the top 10. Therefore, I don't really think that he's ever going to really break into the top 5 or the top 7. I just don't see it. I think that when he gets matched up against these grapplers, he's going to have some problems. And I think that really he's overachieved in a way. He's gone into some fights as an underdog. He's went in there. He's got some knockouts. He's a very entertaining fighter. We've seen him grow up inside the octagon, but I don't expect Drew Dober to really be breaking into that top 7, top 6. But I will be tuned in to Drew Dober fights, and I'll be enjoying them play out. Thiago Moises has a golden opportunity here. He's ranked number 14 here. If he could take out Islam Makhachev, he's going to fly through the rankings. I don't know if maybe he cracks the top 10 if he takes out Islam, as Islam is ranked, what we talked about it earlier. Islam is ranked number 6. You take out number 6 and you're really going to be flying to the top of the ranks, especially because he's been looking really good. Looks like he's ironing out his entire game. Of course, he has nasty jiu-jitsu, but he's been looking very comfortable on the feet. And I think that Moises is a guy that we want to keep an eye on. Number 15, I like talking about this guy here, Arman Sarukian. He is one of my dark horses in the division. His only loss, being by way of Islam Makhachev, a fight that was his UFC debut. Are you guys kidding me? Takes on Islam Makhachev in his UFC debut. Come on, think about that for a second now. A little bit undersized in there, but I think he's put on a little bit of weight now too. He's really settling into that lightweight division, but the way that he even looked in that loss, you see how technical he is with the grappling, and now his striking has came around. His striking has been looking amazing. You take a look at his second to last fight. Excuse me, and he actually did have one loss before Islam, but I'm going to talk about that here. But put on a clinic against Davi Ramos on the feet. The Matt Frivola fight, he went on cruise control in that fight. He just took the easy victory. Didn't really, step on the pedal there. His other loss before that was way back in the day in 2015. So, yeah, I mean, I will say he did redeem that loss as well by way of finish against Alexander Balik. So, his only other loss, in the UFC was against Islam Makhachev. Took that fight. I don't believe he took it on short notice. Actually, yes, he did. I believe he did take that fight on short notice, right? I think Islam had a big matchup there, and Arman stepped in, and that was a win for him just to step in like that. So keep an eye on Arman Sarukian. This guy is really well-rounded, and I could see him moving to the top 10 very, very soon here, and eventually working his way into the top 5 potentially. How old is Arman? Let's take a look at that real quick. Arman Sarukian is a young buck. So this is a guy we're going to be watching for some years to come and has plenty of time to crack the top 5. He's only 24 years old. That's crazy. Okay, this guy has a world of potential. Keep an eye on him. Let's make some money on him moving forward as well. All right, now as we creep down to the number 20 spot, there's 2 more guys I do want to talk about here. We'll brush upon some of these other guys, but going down to number 16, I definitely want to talk about Rafael Fiziev. This guy is a nasty striker. This guy is a fighter that I see giving a lot of problems to guys that are ranked above him. And this is another guy that I do eventually see, moving up throughout the rankings, working his way to a potential top 10 spot down the line. Definitely has that type of potential. The striking is nasty. A lot of guys are trying to avoid fighting him. He's been calling out Kevin Lee for some time. Kevin Lee does not want that smoke. Kevin Lee ranked number 17. Now, yes, Kevin Lee does have a fight against Sean Brady, and that's actually in the welterweight division. So Kevin Lee here, we might be seeing him take a step down in the rankings, as he's not even fighting in the division right now, and there's guys that are chomping at the bit behind him. Alexander Hernandez, I think that he's a little overrated at this 18 spot. I would take Raging Al over him. I would take Grant Dawson over him. And that's why I want to talk about Grant here for a second. Grant Dawson, this was an amazing fight here. If you guys remember, I want to talk about this fight a little bit in depth. But Grant Dawson has been looking amazing. This is another guy to keep an eye on. Ranked at number 20, which is going to kind of cap off the extensive look into the division right here before we move on to other things. Grant Dawson's a guy that will be moving up in the rankings very soon. He's extremely young. And how about this fight against Leonardo Santos? He's been going in there dominating guys. This wasn't the case for this fight. He had to face some adversity. He went through a tough first 2 rounds. But how about the willpower to get that finish in the 3rd round? Now, I will say this. The judges' scorecards did come out, and he still would have won that fight if he didn't get the knockout, if you guys remember that. But some of you guys could have argued, I think it was the first round, or it was one of the first 2, but Santos could have took both those rounds. We didn't really know at the time. You guys know I had a major play on Dawson here, but this was a fight that he didn't know he had in the books. So he went out there looking for the finish to the last second of the fight, coached by one of the best fighters in the game, and James Krause. Keep an eye on Grant Dawson, KGD Dawson, who's 17-1 now. Excellent wrestling. The striking is getting to be very diverse, working with Krause, only 27 years old, has now taken out guys like Minner, Narimani, Santos, Trezano, Julian Erosa, Adrian Diaz. Not the biggest of names, but again, he's still young. He's being groomed properly. Keep an eye on Dawson as he works his way, eventually probably cracking that top 10 one day. Still has some time, though. Other guys we'll just briefly touch upon. Nasrat has had some potential. You'll keep an eye on him. He's had a setback, but he's bounced back with 2 victories. Drakkar Klose is on a 2-fight losing streak. I know it only says 1, but he was finished by Jeremy Stevens by way of shove, if you guys remember that. So, I mess around, but that did suck. We didn't get to see that fight play out. Klose is a very tough fighter. Great calf kicks, great control against the cage. And this is a guy who can give some guys problems. I don't really see him breaking the top 10 ever, really, to be quite honest. Maybe he gets down to that midway of the teens, 15 one day. Damir Ismagulov, not the most exciting fighter, but can definitely give guys some problems. Matiz Gamrot, tough Polish fighter who looked good in his last fight. Going to be fighting Jeremy Stevens, scheduled for July 17th. That's a fight you want to keep on your radar. It'll be an exciting one. We talked about Riddell versus Dober. What else we got here? Vince Pichel will be taking on Austin Hubert coming up August 21st. That's a solid fight there. And there's one other fighter I want to talk about here. Joe Selecki. Keep an eye on Joe Selecki. Ranked right now at number 31. Joe Selecki is a young fighter that has a lot of potential. I give him 5-star rating on his jiu-jitsu skills. This guy is a top prospect. Working on his overall game. Joe Selecki is a guy, only 27 years old. We should expect to see him move up through the rankings here very, very soon and very quickly. Ranked at this spot that he is now in the 30s, we should see him take some substantial jumps when he starts getting some big name victories. Went out there, just took out Jim Miller recently, took out Austin Hubert. But this is a guy, 27, that really shows to have some good skills. And I've had the pleasure of speaking with him on MMA Live Discussion. A great character in the game. So keep an eye on Joe Selecki. That's pretty much going to that's going to cap off the division. We could scroll down here to the bottom. David Tamor. I like this fighter at number 40. He hasn't fought in forever. I don't know where he's been. Frivola, had him on the show. An excellent dude, tough guy. Another X Factor. 2 guys we'll talk about here real quick. Mark O. Madsen, an Olympic caliber fighter who's going to be taking on Clay Guida August 21st. He will destroy Clay Guida. He'll be a big favorite. If you're on him, grab him early. This guy will be moving through the rankings, but he's no spring chicken, so he's got to get the ball moving. Christos Giagos had another big win. You guys know I'm a big fan of his. I expect him to at least crack the 30, somewhere in the 30 in the near future. Hopefully he gets that fight against Cowboy Cerrone that he's been calling for, and I think he does take out Cowboy Cerrone. So shout out to Kama Worthy. We had the pleasure of speaking with him, 47. Yeah, now take us all the way to the number 50 spot. Mike Davis, a guy that has a lot of potential as well. That should be passing some of these guys above him in the near future. Also had the pleasure of speaking with him. What a great dude he was there. So, all right, now, so that's going to cap our full talk of the division here. But I also, now, to recap this, I want to talk about, or excuse me, to top things off, I want to talk about who is the best at each individual skill set in MMA. Striking, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, overall grappling. I want to touch upon those real quick. And we're going to start off with who is the best striker in the division right now. I'm going to say the best striker in the division right now is no other than Dustin Poirier. I don't see how we can pick anyone else besides Dustin. He's gone in there against some of the best strikers in the game, and he's picked them apart, and he's beat them in 5-round wars. We think about the Max Holloway fight, the Justin Gaethje fight, the Conor McGregor fight. I mean, these are some of the best strikers in the world that he's gone out there and put a clinic on them. So I think that Dustin Poirier has some of the more underrated striking. I think he's the best striker in the division. Comment below, who do you guys have as the best striker in the division? I'm curious who you guys have there. Do you guys agree with me on that Dustin Poirier selection? Let me know. Now, as far as wrestling goes, this was a tough one for me. I'm going to go with Islam Makhachev. I was between him and Gregor Gillespie. Okay, Gregor Gillespie's right up there too. I'm talking about straight wrestling. I did edge Islam. I think that Islam has a little bit better wrestling for the division. I think he's a little bit naturally, he's more of a naturally bigger guy. I think that size would kind of help him in wrestling exchanges in Gregor. But Gregor's right there, man. Shout out to Gregor too. It might be 1A, 1B. Both of those guys have some of the best wrestling in the fight game, and I have them as both the best wrestlers in the division. But I'm going to take Islam at number 1. He's been going in there. He's so technical. He just doesn't miss a beat. I would love to see those guys face off, to be quite honest. But do you guys agree with me there? And if not, who do you guys have as the best wrestler in the division? Now, as far as the best BJJ, I think you guys know the deal with this. It's Charles do Bronx Oliveira. The kingpin, I think he has 13 submissions inside the UFC. The all-time leader. He is a freak submission artist. He pulls off all different types of submissions. Arm bars, rear naked choke, calf slicers. Did he pull off a Peruvian necktie? He's pulled it all off, man, this guy. I got Charles Oliveira as the best BJJ artist. And as far as overall grappling, I'm going to stick with Charles Oliveira. I still got Charles Oliveira as the best overall grappler. We saw it with Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler went to the mat with him a little bit, tried to use a little bit of his wrestling, whatnot. I don't know if he tried to, but they got in some scrambles. And, okay, Charles might not be the best straight-up wrestler, but the overall grappling, I'll take him on the mat against anybody. That includes Islam Makhachev. Charles Oliveira is a wizard in there, and I love his grappling. And you guys know I'm a big fan of Charles Oliveira. And that's what we'll go now to the final segment of this episode, which is who is just the best in the division. We'll talk about it one more time. Who is the kingpin? I want to put the stamp on this. I got Charles Oliveira. I wish we would have been able to see Charles Oliveira versus Khabib. I don't think we'll ever see that happen. Charles Oliveira, in my opinion, is the best lightweight fighter in the world. He brings so much to the table. I cannot wait to see what's next for him. The division is so stacked. There's so many big matchups to be made in the near future. And I will continuously, most likely, I guess I would say, well, depending on the matchups, we'll do our research, but I'll keep making money on Charles Oliveira. You guys know I've been riding with him for a long time. And I hate to say I told you guys so, but run all the tape back. Go to all my Charles Oliveira breakdowns over the last 4 or 5 fights. Charles Oliveira, this is a guy I've been riding with, man. Taking him at dog odds. I saw the skills that this guy brought to the table a while back. People kept getting stuck in that idea that he was, the fighter that would get broken once in a while. This guy's striking us came around. You could see it in his eyes when he's out there. This guy is just a straight killer. And Charles Oliveira is the kingpin of the lightweight division right now. And that will cap off our in-depth breakdown of the lightweight division. I hope you guys enjoyed this now. Keep in mind that I'm going to have all these different divisions coming out to you guys. Comment below, which division do you want to see me break down extensively next? Any division. The women's strawweight division, the UFC, the men's welterweight division, any division, featherweight, the flyweight division. There's a lot we can talk about in regards to this. And after we hit these all up, maybe we'll even hit up the Bellator scene, ONE FC, whatever you guys want. You guys comment below and we'll get it, all right? All right, guys. On that note, there's only one thing we could do. Signing out. The MMA fortune teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller.